good. It's all good. Living, loving, loving, living, it's all good. I'm loving, living, it's all good. Living, loving, living, it's all good. I'm loving, living, it's all good.
Hey, welcome to another edition of It's All Good. I am Adam Cox. Some of you know me as Lukas on the B98 Morning Show from Wichita, Kansas. And my co-host from Tucson, Arizona, Dr. Eric Lane, best friend and life coach. We were just together this weekend. We're writing a book. And usually when we spend a lot of time together, Eric gets really sick of me and says, "Is it time for you to go home yet? Do you still feel like that, or do you miss me?"
Well, we almost didn't get together, so it was good that you made it out here. We had a little incident Friday night.
Don't bring that up. Please don't bring that up.
Did you talk about that today at all on the radio?
I did talk about that on the radio. And
Were you kind to Allegiant Airlines?
I blasted the guy from Allegiant Airlines for not helping me. So I already got that out of my system. So I don't want to bring any negativity to this show.
But you were probably very nice to Jamie, I think, the one that I spoke to at about midnight, the night you missed your flight, and she reopened your return ticket in a very nice way.
Well, I'm thankful for you to deal with that, because I was learning a lesson of how to be patient. So that was we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so as you can see, I'm wearing a shirt today that I've never worn before. My wife had printed this out. We went to a radio event. We took a picture together, and she loved the picture. She put it on Facebook. She says, "Oh my gosh, everybody loves this picture of us together." So she actually printed it and put it on a T-shirt. She got one for me, but she didn't get one for her. So she expects me to wear this out, but she didn't get one for her to wear out. So I'm going to move the microphone, and I'm going to let you look at this picture, and you tell me. I'm going to try to get – where's the camera on here anyways?
I can see it. Oh, my. Look at that. When was that taken? Was that like the Oscars or the
It was a fancy some kind of a charity event that we went to. So today is the first day that I'm wearing the shirt, because she asked me to wear it a long time ago, and it's been sitting in the closet. And I went to the closet. I was like, "Hey, I've never worn this shirt, so here it is, Nicole. I'm wearing your shirt, our shirt."
Mr. Perfect has worn off on you. You're doing a lot of things Mr. Perfect asks you to do.
I'm learning a lot by doing this show.
And you have a very patient wife, because I was talking to her this weekend when she realized that you didn't print your boarding pass and showed up an hour before and missed the flight, and how loving and kind she was.
You said that we weren't going to talk about this. Can we stay positive? This is a positive show.
Well, this is a story that I think for people, because I was going to tell you 30 minutes after this occurred, we might as well laugh about it now, because we're going to be laughing about it in a few days or 3 or 4 months. So it's a good lesson. Most of the things that we look at that in the moment, because you were a little bit upset, in the moment, if we just say, "I'm going to laugh about it in a year," I may as well laugh about it now. It changes the perspective of the event, because in most of these things, we do look back and laugh at it. So we can smile, laugh, and have fun and make fun of you again.
As I was on the phone with you, live from the airport, you were laughing and giggling, and I was beside myself. So I should have taken you're my life coach. You should have been like, "All right, let's not." But okay, so I learned. So laugh things off instead of getting upset.
That's right. You did good. You didn't get too upset.
All right. Okay, so we'll talk about a couple of things today on this episode. First is I don't know where the camera is, but let me look at your fingers first. Put your fingers in the camera. I want to see your fingers. All good?
Yep, all good.
All good.
No problems with fingers.
So my fingers, there's one finger that I'm going to put it in the camera. I don't know if you can see my pinky finger.
Yeah, I saw the pinky finger, your middle.
No, not my middle. I want that one right.
Yep, I see it.
There. You see that?
Yep.
Okay, so I play basketball. I jam my fingers all the time. I jam my finger playing basketball, but this time it really, really hurt. And so I didn't do anything about it, because I thought it was a jammed finger. But my back of my mind is like, maybe I did something else to my finger. Maybe it's broke. And then it never got better, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I had a doctor look at it about 3 weeks ago. And this has been done for, I don't know, 3 months. 3 months ago, this happened. He looks at it and he goes, "Oh yeah, you broke that. You should have went in immediately and had that reset." And I started thinking about my thought process when that happened was, I jammed it really bad, and I never want to go to the doctor. So I started thinking about, what am I going to do? So my first reaction was, I'm just going to leave it alone. And so I started thinking about when we have things happen to us in our lives, and you do something like that, you make a quick reaction or a judgment without thinking about all the consequences that are coming down the road. So here it is 3 months later, my finger is actually broke and it will stay in this state now unless I go get surgery. So there is an alternative solution, but the results from my decision for not getting it done in the first place is now I'm just going to have a handicap pinky for the rest of my life. So I'm asking you, Dr. Eric, why does my mind go to that when I'm trying to, when something happens to me, I'm thinking, okay, my first reaction is, I don't want to deal with anything, and I'm just going to go forward and just take the pain, not knowing that the rest of my life, I'm not thinking about the longer effects and the consequences.
Most of the time, because you've jammed your fingers a lot of times, so I think the first thing is you just assume it's just another jammed finger. And you don't want to take the time to go get it diagnosed. You don't want to get an x-ray. You don't want to do a lot of those things because your prior experience has taught you, or you think it's taught you, what's going to happen over the course of the next few weeks, the next month or two. So
right.
A lot of the actions and the things that we do is based upon our experiences or what we think is going to happen. And when things don't go according to plan, sometimes then we continue down that road without stepping back and saying, wait a minute, normally my finger gets a lot better within 10 days to 14 days. It still hurts and I'm 2 to 3 weeks out. But it's difficult because we know that the steps that we're going to take may require more activity, and we just hope. That's the thing. We just hope that things will turn out okay. And it's just like throwing a quarter in the air and hoping it lands on heads instead of tails because we have, whatever happened occurred, and no matter how much you hope it didn't break, it either broke or it didn't break. It doesn't matter what you thought about it. And so the course of action, sometimes we just hope that if it goes away, that everything's great. And if I don't look at it, it's going to be fine. And it's almost like the child who's afraid to see people and they get under the table or they get under a sheet. And because they can't see them, they just think nobody can see them or they look away. Yeah. The reality is it's still the truth. And unless you deal with it head on, then you might have, like you're dealing with now, some very painful and a lot more time and energy to fix something that would have been a lot easier to remedy had you dealt with it immediately.
So I have a new decision to make. Do I go get surgery and have them actually cut open and readjust my finger, or do I just leave it broke because I can function and I still can play basketball? I can do everything with this broken finger. It looks weird and it pops out. So what would you do?
I think it depends on the rehabilitation. I have a torn labrum in my right shoulder, and the cure for that is way more in depth than what I think I could do I didn't have the surgery done 3 or 4 years ago and the tear's still there. So You have to look at the different types of rehabilitation, how much it's going to affect you in the long run. You're going to have arthritis in that joint a lot more. So really in 5 to 10 years down the road, it could be much more problematic.
Well, then could I still get surgery 5 or 10 years, or would it not do any good?
You might not have any joint space left. So at that time, a surgeon may say it doesn't do much good because you've lost all the synovial fluid and the cartilage in there that forms the joint capsule.
Gotcha.
So once again, the decision to say, what am I going to do? And that's all. People have that every day. In my case, I have to use my right arm. My surgery required cutting of that tendon, the bicipital tendon, and reattaching it to the arm as opposed to inside the shoulder area. And I'm in a splint for 6 months. I can't treat patients. And the rehabilitation is not real favorable for most people anyway. So for me, it was a fairly easy choice. My arm was not going to deteriorate anymore. I just had to learn how to use it in different ways.
That was my Ask Dr. Eric question for the day. I want to get to one great story today that I talked about on the radio today. And I thought to myself, man, this is making an impact on me. So there is a plumber who lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. And he came up with a charity called Willie the Plumber. And what he does is he makes $30,000 a year. And he's figured out by making that with that little of a salary for him, he's figured out a way to donate $1,000 to 17 different kids that are going to college so they can have money to go to college. Now, all these kids that are qualified for this, their parents are incarcerated or in jail. And I thought to myself, you and I had this conversation before about kids are innocent, right? Most of the time, kids are very innocent. They don't know why their parents are in jail. They don't deserve not being able to go to college because their parents are incarcerated. So this plumber, his name is Carl, but they call him Willie. That's the name of his I guess plumber business. Decided, you know what? I'm going to make sure that some of these kids can get to college and help with their college tuition. So he's donated $1,000 to 17 different kids in Salt Lake City that have their parents are incarcerated, right? So they asked him, you only make $30,000 a year. How do you come up with $1,000 to give these kids every year? And here's his reply. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't go to Starbucks and get coffee. I don't have HBO. So, I mean, I don't waste a lot of money on that stuff. So seriously, what's $1,000 to help a kid? And that just, it put everything in perspective for me. Because we all think about money. I don't have money to do this. I don't have money to do that. This guy makes $30,000 a year and donates $1,000 every year because he figures out this is my drinking coffee, cigarette money.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. We watched a documentary last night, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it's you can find it. It's called Nicky's Kids, and he's died since then. He actually lived to be 100 years old, but I'm trying to remember where he was from. I think London, but he had heard about the Czechoslovakia when Hitler had invaded, and he was going to go off on a skiing trip to Switzerland with a buddy of his, but his buddy said, you know what, I'm going to Czechoslovakia because these people are being put in these concentration camps or these refugee camps, and the children have nowhere to go. So he doesn't go on his vacation. He goes to Czechoslovakia, and over the course of the next year to 18 months, he basically gets about 700 children out of Czechoslovakia and all the families were killed in the gas chambers. He had to find visas and passports. He had to deal with the United States, with London, with multiple places to get these children out of this place. He never said a word. He had a scrapbook with all of the faces, with all of the documentation, and his wife, 40 years into their marriage, goes up into the attic and finds this scrapbook. And she is just blown away because he's never said a word about it. Could you imagine what he's done and never to brag about it or to say anything? And she gets in touch with somebody at the BBC, and they reach out and find about 300 of these people. They invite him on a television show, and they're all in the crowd, and they're talking about it, and he just doesn't even want to know about it. And then all of a sudden, the lady turns to him, and everybody in the crowd is somebody that he saved. And it is just an amazing experience. And you talk about people, they exist everywhere. And they're usually the ones that don't say a word, just like this plumber. It's like, hey, what's the big deal? You know, I've got a roof and I've got food and I've got drink. What's the big deal? You know, I need to go help someone else. And especially now with, I mean, how many millions of people are affected by this deal in Houston that, everybody can do something. And so great example this guy is. And Nicky's Kids, if you get a chance, it's a great documentary.
Love it. Okay, do we have a challenge for our viewers today for this week of something good that they can do in their lives?
So last week, what did we have them do last week? Do you remember?
Last week they were supposed to no, I don't remember.
So last week we continued on the theme of just more of laughter and smiling.
Oh, that's right.
A great challenge this week for all of us is this. We talked about it this weekend, and James, who we had on last week on the interview.
Oh, right.
Is making sure, try this when those that are married and those that have children. This is the most, it's a challenge, but think about this for a minute. We come home from work every night, or we watch our kids get off the bus at school, or our kids doing homework in the living room. How many times do we, clapping and cheering and saying, good job, you guys are great. We would think we're sort of foolish. We only do that when they throw a touchdown pass, right?
Right.
We don't do it when they do something much more important than throw a touchdown pass. They just went to school. They did a good deed. We want to try to show some enthusiasm and some excitement around our family. When you come home from your job, husbands or wives, whoever you are, instead of defaulting into the poor me, I just worked 12 hours, now I have a right to sit on the couch and treat you like crap, get motivated to see your spouse's face and go in and change up the game a little bit. Whether you got to scream, yell, laugh, treat your spouse, your children like your best customer, your best client. Because I know if you go to work tomorrow, you're going to put on the face for them. And I can tell you, your children and your spouse are much more important than that best client. So that's a challenge. You don't have to do it every day, but try to do a few moments. You'll actually have, your spouse will probably wonder who you are, and your kids will probably be in shock because they're just not used to that. But we need to get used to cheering people for things that are important. Like I said, cheer your kids before they go to bed.
I can tell you right now, I can tell you right now that if I go in the kitchen while my wife is washing dishes and I go right next to her and go, let's go, good job, Nicole, doing a good job, I will get punched in the face.
So do it for something that she's not working. Like when you come home and bring flowers home, bring food home, and just say, what are you doing? Well, you're the greatest thing. Just something that, like I said, act like your spouse is your best client or the one that pays you the most. Because you'll treat them a whole lot different sometimes than we treat them, because we just take it for granted that they're going to love us when we're ugly, old, stinky, hairy.
Yeah.
And if we're not changing the game, pretty soon they're going to say, what am I doing with that, big old slump of clay on the couch?
That is a great advice. And thank you guys for watching. It's all good. We'll see you next week.
It's all good.